are live.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight for the Eureka Springs Hospital Budget Commission, Budget Workshop, I should say, Hospital Budget Workshop. It's a special workshop. The only thing we're going to be dealing with, we'll be talking about the budget and the information that's been supplied to us. I've asked our finance director, Michael, to be here to help us sort out any questions that we might have regarding budget and audits and legislative audits. So with that said, everyone's here except for Harry Myers, and Harry has been excused with absence. He had to be at the doctor's. So, Rochelle, I think you wanted this, you and Terry kind of wanted this workshop or started it. So do you want to lead off with it? Or?
Sure. Well, so I appreciated David last meeting, kind of putting the whole thing in context. There was just a couple of comments I wanted to make to get us started. One is, he reminded us that council is even looking at this issue because of the public's concern with the current hospital administration and the resulting disinterest of the commission. So public pressure sort of came to us to do something, to take a deeper look, and I think we've done a good job in acting within our authority to shed some light on important matters and ask them what I feel like are important and valid questions on the finances of the hospital and some of the issues on that end with the administration. So the other thing that I wanted to do first off before we kind of get into the weeds is to acknowledge the commission in finally providing the materials that we've asked for and doing that in a very comprehensive way. I do appreciate that, and I want to acknowledge that first off. In full transparency, as I've said before, I'm prepared. I always try to be prepared to the meetings. I know that surprises you guys. And I have I narrowed it down to 5 primary concerns based on the financial reports that we received, that I have, questions that I have. And in full transparency, I am not an accountant. So I am super happy to see Michael sitting over there because hopefully this can be a learning experience. I'm hoping that I'm going to learn a lot just in having conversations. So I think it's super helpful to have Michael here, and I appreciate you being here. So I did, not anticipating that Michael would be able to be here, connected with a well-respected CPA who kind of helped me understand, coached me on some things to, I guess, help me understand whether I had actual questions or not related to that. And I just wanted to be fully transparent about that. And so the 5 points that I have, and I don't have to go first on that, but the 5 concerns or questions that I have, I just used we can refer to the actual document up there so everyone is sure that it's the document that's been provided to us. But I did, in the order of points that I have, I printed out the document and highlighted the issue or the area that I'm talking about, so hoping that would facilitate conversation. So I'm pretty open to, how we want to proceed. I'm happy to bring up my concerns first, or I can yield to anyone else. I don't want to be taking up all the air.
My question for you is your concerns related to 24 and 25?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of me too. After what I looked at that we were provided, I mean, up through 23 was, 23 was pretty much the beginning of the transition, I think. And so I think that gives us kind of a baseline as to where things were. And then 24 goes into the new system and what they're trying to accomplish with the new designation and the way they operate. And that's something in my mind that's, they kind of fly by the seat of their pants because it's not the same animal it was before in what they're trying to accomplish. So I do want to give some weight to that, but as far as the numbers up through 23, I'm okay. So I have, and I brought stuff too, but.
Okay, great.
But that's, if you want me to take this, that's fine. Is this all 5 of your things right here?
Yeah, well, so again, it's just this same document. I just highlighted what I would actually be referencing because I don't have
Okay.
a pointer. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. This is what we do.
I should have brought you an apple.
Yeah.
You
Also,
got
I
an
wanted
extra
to
one?
say that I have Tabby
Rochelle,
back at
do you have
the.
an extra one? Thank you.
I wanted to say I have Tabby back at the desk, so she's got the thumb drive. So anything that you want up here, she can find it for
Okay.
you. She knows all the documents. She's seen the thumb drive.
I brought
so she's
most
going to
of
help Avery with making sure it gets the right document, so we won't be
That's-
thumbing around. So
That's like so awesome.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. So do you guys want me to just
Sure.
go ahead and
Yeah.
then we can have conversation about in whatever order. And so I also wanted to say before I go into this that this, it's been, I've had an issue with the total cash and equivalents on the balance sheet not matching up with the income statement or with the bank balance statement. And we've had correspondence about that back and forth, and I appreciate, Michael, your solutions for kind of articulating how we can ask the question to a third party. That's super helpful. Not knowing that the commission would make adjustments, which we received today, and I haven't really had a chance to look at that. So I want to acknowledge that they have made some adjustments. And certainly if you're understanding what's happening there and you want to speak to that, that would be super helpful. But that was my one first concern, was that the documents that were provided to us, including finally the balance statements, were certified as correct by the commission, and they reflect inaccuracies. And that to me is concerning. Again, total cash equivalents reported initially for 5/31/25 balance statement. And you'll see this is highlighted on the very first page. You would expect to match the cash balance. If I'm understanding this correctly, and Michael, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I would expect those things to match. Or at least approach each other more closely. And they don't. And I think at the last council meeting, this was reported along with a really condescending speech and essay to council on how to interpret financials. So I would expect this to be clean and balanced, and it isn't. And that is a main concern to me. On your third page, this is the second sort of question or concern that I have. There's outstanding liabilities. Again, this is why we were asking for a balance sheet, is to see a different picture, as Sandy accurately said. It provides a different picture of the financials. And if you look at this other deferred revenue in the amount of $3 million, in 2024, that was reported somewhere around 4, and now it's 3. My understanding after some coaching is that this has to do with some money that came through COVID that couldn't be accounted for. And now, based on the auditor, it sits on the balance sheet as a liability. Meaning, in my understanding of a liability, that we may have to pay that back at some point. So that's $3 million. And my question would be, if we were approaching this in the most responsible way, would the hospital commission set aside money that might be held in case that was recalled? Or how long does that sit there on the balance sheet? How long do we carry a $3 million liability for? And the reason that I'm asking this question is because I want to understand how much money we actually have to spend, which goes to a primary concern that I have with the hospital commission at the moment overseeing the spending.
I have something to say about that. Our last workshop, I brought up the COVID money, and they said, it all happened before they all got there, the current staff, and that they didn't think they'd ever be able to pay it back, and that they did consider a liability at that point. So just want to interject that. So
They said that they didn't think they would have to pay it back?
they didn't think they would be able to pay it back because the people who was in charge at the time when the COVID money happened aren't there anymore. And so these people picked it up as kind of something that can go back in time and produce the receipts and stuff for us. So they acknowledged that they probably would have to pay that money back, that $3 million. So,
That they would have to
Yeah.
pay it back?
so they were acknowledging they were listing it as a liability at that point.
So with your COVID money, you had some pretty extensive reporting that you had to do. We had to log on to a system and tell them what our plans were, what the money was, and then we have to update it through the system. Then when you spend all the money.
Were you involved in this part of it too, the hospital money?
No, we were not, but we had COVID money also.
Yes, I know you did.
And so if you don't provide them with everything that they ask for, they have the ability to come and pull the money back and ask you for the money back. My understanding from this is that this was through Alliance, when they had Alliance, and they have reported everything that they've reported to the Fed, not to the Fed, but to the COVID, and that they have not asked for the receipts yet. But should they ask for the receipts, they can't provide them because they're at Alliance. So if they don't provide the receipts, then they could come back and ask for the money back. So that's why the auditor is saying this is a potential liability. They kind of do this with us, like if you have a lawsuit and they feel like it's one that you may end up losing, then they ask you to list that as a liability, the auditors do. So on this, what they're saying is that there's a potential that they would have to pay that back. It's not a given that they'll have to pay it back, but it is a potential.
I have two questions along that line then. One, when did Alliance actually leave to verify the truth in that statement? When did Alliance actually leave? And if so, then the hospital commission, they hired whoever they hired, so they were responsible because they were overseeing everything at that time. So, I mean, that could be a scapegoat. It may be legitimate. I don't know. But, it's in my opinion, they're still responsible for that because they received it. So they should have been overseeing it one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I totally agree with what you're saying, Terry. And Alliance had it, as Terry asked, how long ago was that? And at what point will a CFO or somebody look into this to say, can we close our books on this? Or do you want receipts? COVID's been long gone.
Well, there is a time frame. They say it's 4 years from when this all took place. So they are coming up on 4 years. So their session is September. That they feel like in September, if they've not have been asked for the money back by September, then.
And it's August.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think I lost my train of thought here.
But
I
to
guess
Rochelle's point, you could put money to the side and designate it for that, and put it into an account or something.
Earmark it.
Earmark it for that. Then once you pass the time frame, move it back.
I guess the frustrating thing is, why couldn't the hospital answer that? Somebody there doesn't even know. And are we assuming this was COVID money, or are you saying it? It was probably oh, you heard it, didn't you?
Do what?
That this was COVID money.
I think the audit
I don't know what your point
also
yet.
shows that it
Audit is
was
the
that.
reason why.
When you said that they brought up at the hospital budget,
I asked them about the COVID money in that workshop, and they said it was $3 million, but it's before the current staff. They had no control over what happened back then, but they didn't think they'd be able to come up with the receipts because somebody else was doing the bookkeeping.
and that's
that they would
fine,
be
but
a
somehow
liability.
that's your job to go in and figure it out. And why had they not been able to answer that?
Well, they said they
When-
wouldn't be able
when-
to pull up
when-
receipts that they didn't have.
It's a rhetorical question. I know you don't know that answer, but
Right.
it still kind of behooves me that we have a CFO, and the CFO should have known this was COVID and been able to answer that, for Sandy to answer it to us.
I mean, I would agree with Susan. I brought this up months ago when I saw the 2024 balance sheet, and I inquired about the $4 million in liabilities, and I never heard a good explanation. I was not at the workshop, so I'm happy to hear that they recognized that that was money that they possibly owed. And then my next question would be, what's your plan? What's your plan to repay it? You know, like, I don't know. It feels a little fast and loose with the money is my feeling on this whole thing at the end of the day. But again, I'm coming from a place where my main concern is that spending is high and revenues are low. And there's only so long that we're going to be able to survive with that, which brings me to some of my next concerns.
And I'm going to interject, and without the balance sheet to show us, that's where the rubber hits the road, the balance sheet. That is probably one of the most important documents you can provide when you're providing financials.
Yeah, so that is exactly why we were looking for a balance sheet, is to have a better understanding. And so moving on to the third concern, which is there's a little 3 at the top of your sheet. I'm looking at the balance sheet again just for 5/31/25. I see construction in progress. I don't know what this is, and I'm not aware of any construction visibly happening, but it's $863,000. That's also carried over from before. So I've just not heard anything about that. That seems like a significant thing to talk about or report. And then that kind of makes me think, like, if there's construction in progress and you're planning on buying trucks and doing all these different things and hiring CEO for $250,000, and which is a very important part of their success, I believe, getting someone who's trained to operate the hospital properly. But is there a 3-year plan for capital improvements? Whether or not that's a hospital or something else, if things go horribly wrong, that's a city asset, right? And we're going to have to do something with that. It would be nice if it was an economic driver for the community. What's the capital plan for that building, and where do we see this in the financials? What kind of a plan is there? Is there a revised budget for 2025? Because we know that they've already completely surpassed the spending on their budget. So right now it looks to me like the commission is spending a lot of money, planning to spend more money without a budget, kind of just out there like drinking water when you don't have a backup. I don't know. It's scary to me. That's just not how my mind works, but I wanted to just point it out. I feel there needs to be a revised budget for 2025. I think that could guide spending decisions. And then when you talk about, are you purchasing a van? Are you doing whatever the next project is going to be? Does that fit within this year's budget? Can you reallocate money? I mean, we're doing this as a city, right? When we want to pay for something, we have to do the same thing. So at the end of the day, I don't think there is one. If there is, I would love to see it. And sometimes when I say things in public, it appears. So I'm hoping that maybe there's one out there. We have a CFO and a commission, in my opinion, that has neglected the financial health of the hospital for the last 16 months. Just based on the last 3 concerns that I brought to the attention of this group. I think that's a problem. Moving on to my 4th concern, if we look at the income statement for 5/31/25, and again, I worked with a CPA to kind of look at this, but we're at an average monthly operating cost of $370,000. That's just over the last 5 months. Actually, $366,226.
Where are you on what's?
So this is page 4. If you look at the income statement,
Okay.
We're looking at the net income, which is a loss, plus the subsidy that's received for the last 5 months, You divide that by 5. Without a subsidy, we would already be closed. We obviously have a subsidy. How long that's going to last or what that's going to look like, we don't know, because we know there are big national changes happening. But right now, we're operating at a $370,000 a month loss. So to say that, we're doing great, everything's fine, there's no alarm here, I don't think that reflects that. And that concerns me. Now, if I heard something like, oh my gosh, yes, we are, and we're gonna put down spending freezes, and we're going to tighten our belts, or we're going to look at other ways that we can save. Like, that is the conversation that I would expect to hear when something like that was pointed out to commission, and instead we hear, you're wrong, everything's fine, that's not correct, you made up numbers, and it's just not the case. And finally, the last concern really speaks to, again, the spending, which I think is a little bit out of control. The commission has said that contract labor and salaries, they're a wash. And at least with contract labor, even though everyone who is connected with anyone who has worked as a contract physician or nurse knows how much money they make, and that could not possibly be true. All we have to do is look at what they've provided us to see that there is a difference, and a remarkable difference, especially when you're operating at a $370,000 a month loss. It makes a difference whether you employ or whether you contract for labor. So looking at salaries and wages and benefits, right, because that was the argument, that the benefits cost so much that put it as a comparable or equivalent to contract labor. I've done the calculations for you to the right, so sorry that my writing is terrible, but I wanted to not take any chance to appear as though I was manipulating numbers. So this is just the printout off of what they gave us, and I hand calculated, and you can verify for yourself that those are the numbers. And it's more expensive to contract labor. So we're spending money on something when we don't have extra money.
Yeah,
That is my concern.
Have you by any chance calculated the percentage of labor cost into the revenue cost or expense costs, rather?
I've showed you the calculation that I've done. I think that it could...
it's like
Just to see what percentage.
percentage of labor
Labor
to
is.
expenses, yeah.
Yeah,
total expense.
someone can do that. I haven't done
You
that
haven't
here.
done that, though.
I have not done that here. I may have done it earlier,
I'm just curious.
but
I think when Sandy gave us a sheet and we were, I think it had percentages a while back at the kind of beginning of all of this, where we saw the percentage of contract labor as opposed to full-time employees, and that percentage was really high. That was the
the
first red flag
comparison that I did before was when we were when we were a critical access hospital, and we were spending the same amount percentage-wise that we were when we were fully staffing a hospital.
I think that was right when you came on board, Rochelle.
But I didn't look at percentages
It's
here.
not in here.
So, I mean, for me, at the end of the day, I have 3 primary concerns. We have inaccurate reporting that was certified as correct from the commission. The entire commission, I'm assuming, certified that these were correct, and they were not. That's very concerning to me because they're the oversight body for the financials. Second, unchecked spending. We're finding ways to spend money, maybe trying to spend our way out of whatever happened before, but it's clear we don't have the money. There's not an unending amount of money that's coming to us in any certain time in the near future. And we have a historic loss in revenue. And while June's numbers may be great, which I did hear that, and I am excited to hear that they have climbed, I haven't done the projections, but I could project using the trend data that I had before. I would expect it to climb because the people who are visiting town, who get injured in motorcycle accidents or have heart attacks or get too hot, they don't live here, but they come here, and that does track tourism patterns. I'm not saying anything other than that. I'm not trying to put any sort of tourist theories on visitation. I'm just saying there are people here during this time, they get hurt, they go to the hospital. In fact, I would say those are the people going to the hospital because the residents are not going to the hospital.
Well, and that's very true. So we're told, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that Sandy mentioned that we don't count on tourism. We certainly do. It's a tourist town. When you only have 2,000, give or take, residents, we are not the only ones that support that hospital. So it has to be tourism. And you would expect it to go up through these summer months, but with this and the inaccuracies still here today, validated by our commission, I think we need to make a decision on how we want to move forward to fix this.
Mayor, for your benefit, 64%.
Okay.
Well, I think we should take advantage of Mr. Akins here, who is a bookkeeper. So I'm not an accountant. I look at these numbers. If you lead me through them, I can follow them. But I can't tell you if this is right or this is wrong.
Well, no.
I mean, we don't have that kind of education. And most of the commissioners on the hospital commission also do not have that education. They're told, they understand what they're told. And, and they do the best they can, just like most of our commissions do.
Okay.
So I'm not done talking yet.
Sorry.
And so I'd like to ask Mr. Akins, with all the information they gave us, can you tell me, is there a major problem with their bookkeeping? Is there money missing? Are they embezzling $2.5 million? What's going on? Because, I don't know.
Okay. What I can tell you is from what I have looked at. Now, I have not gone into their books and looked and seen what's in there. I have looked at what they have told us and what they have presented to us. First of all, the documents that they give you is not an audited financial. They are not certifying those as a certification of the numbers. These are numbers that they're printing out of the system that they're currently using, and that's why you have an audit. So the audit comes in and makes sure that the numbers are right. So these are not certified numbers. The commission is not certifying that these are correct numbers. Second of all, the audit, the adjustments that they're talking about, how an audit works is they come in and they audit all of your books and stuff. And they come in and they say, okay, there's no, on like with the city, there's no money missing, but you've recorded this here and we would have recorded it there. Or you've recorded it with this general ledger number and we would have put it here. So these audit adjustments that they're talking about are ones that the auditor has suggested that they make of errors that they have made or things that they would do better. According to the meeting that they had yesterday with the hospital commission, there was an error in their total cash and cash equivalents that had started when they did the transition over to Oracle. What they said was their accounts receivable was not journalizing to accounts receivable, it was journalizing to the cash and cash equivalents. So what they had to do is go in and pull that out of cash equivalents and bring it down to their accounts receivable. So when they did that for May and June, in May, when they made that adjustment, their cash equivalent came down to $5.5 million is how much they're showing now on their balance sheet as their cash equivalent. If you go back and you look, which is what I did for 24 through 25, you will see at about the time that they made this transition that their accounts receivable balance starts going down. So that would indicate that the accounts receivable were being paid off and that they weren't putting more accounts receivable in there, because accounts receivable is not actually physical cash. That has to do with their booking that they're billing. So when you trend them, Back in the mid 24, they had 2.4, 2 million, 1,900,000 on their accounts receivable. As of April, they had $1 million on their accounts receivable. So that would show that they were being paid off, but more weren't coming in there. So now that they have that fixed, it'll show less money in their actual cash and more money into their accounts receivable. So their balance sheet didn't change as far as overall numbers, but the cash equivalent did come down to mirror what's in their bank account. Now, it's not going to be exactly the same because you're going to have clearing issues, you're going to have checks outstanding, things like that. So they're never going to be penny for penny. So, but that is down to where it's like $5,000 difference is what they're showing now.
Is that corrected on this report?
It is on the no.
What you sent us today?
It's on the financials that they gave out yesterday. And if you want, this is really hard to see, but this is a comparison of their financials over the past year.
So you wouldn't expect a penny to penny until like after the year's over and everything's caught up and then they said this is the final budget as it happened in the past, right?
This is not the one that.
So that actually makes me feel better, Michael, because what you're saying is the error that they're saying created this big discrepancy. You went back and looked at the accounts receivable trends, and you see that that matches up actually with what they're saying.
See, if you look on the second line, I know, and I apologize for it being so tiny,
right.
but I was trying to get it all on one sheet so we could look at it. If you'll look at the second line, total patient AR, you'll see it's running $3 million in February, $2 million, $1.9 million, and then you'll see it starts trending down, and it gets down to April, it's at $1,039,000. So that number should have some flexibility in it, but it shouldn't be that dramatic.
That makes me feel a lot more confident that what they're saying happened, because my next question before you said this was, wouldn't you be able to verify accounts receivable? Aren't there other places that exists that you could look at that and see? My other question then now is, they're paying a CFO. Would that not have alerted the CFO back in a year ago?
If she was looking at the balance sheet, it would. If she's not looking at the balance sheet, it wouldn't. I would think that in a transition, you would have wanted to make sure that everything was going to the right places. But so much of that is computer driven now. Like, if you make a payment for your water, you just pay the water, and when we put it into the system, it throws it out to all the different places that it needs to go. It puts it into the INI, it puts it into all the different things internally within the system. So it would be a tracking thing but I can't answer that honestly because it's...
Yeah. I mean, I use QuickBooks. That's kind of like probably a hugely dumbed down version to what they're using for their accounting. But again, like, it's my responsibility as a business owner to look at what it's sitting out to me and to ask myself, does that look right? What's going on here? And I'm curious, who is it at the hospital commission or the CFO or the CEO, or who is looking at the balance sheet? Who is looking for these things? Because as soon as we got it, it took us like one day. Like 2 hours, to be honest with you, to figure it out.
So the hospital, and putting the commission aside, you had a good point, Steve, on, they may not know accounting like hospital accounting. However, we have been bringing this issue up as a red flag for months. I would have thought, as their role and responsibility at the hospital, the CEO and the CFO, again, would have come together to say to Sandy, so Sandy could stand up there confidently and say what is going on. She's only telling us what she is being told. She's the messenger here. And I'll go back to what I said months ago. Maybe we don't have the right people in the right place. Maybe because Rochelle has asked for a couple of months now for a balance sheet, and we were told we have it, and she just verified on emails this past week that she did not have it. If somebody were saying a board that they had an issue with something, you would bet my boss would be, figure that out. Where's the balance sheet? Show me the discrepancies so that this embarrassment doesn't keep coming back. And it does keep coming back. And here we are, months later. And to reiterate what Rochelle said at the beginning, it all started with employees being fired and let go. And I mean, I don't know where they are. I was told the lab was up and running at the last commission meeting, and I'm told it's not. So what is? I'm losing confidence from what I'm hearing is not correct. And I would think too, it's the messenger.
I definitely agree with you. This has not been handled well. It's like this whole thing has been a fiasco. And the way it's been presented, our last workshop, the way they presented it, it was hard to figure out what they were talking about. Of course, we'd ask questions, but if you don't know what the question is to ask, again, I'm not an accountant, So, but is the personnel issues related to the financial issues, or is just, were people fired because of the financial issues? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying we may not have a qualified person leading finances. If that's all I'm saying. It's not our job to fire them. It's the commissions, I think, or the CEO or the new CEO. But if we couldn't get to the bottom of this, and at least we have some partial answers, we still don't even have all the answers.
Well, do we
This
have
should have
all the
been-
answers? Do we have them all? Michael, do we have all the answers here?
No.
Tell us,
The,
please.
the only answer that I don't really know about is the construction in progress. I don't know anything about that. I haven't looked at that or asked on that. So that would be a Sandy question or the hospital question. So I don't really know on that. I don't know about that.
You don't know what the construction is, Butch?
Well, I do know that there's construction plans. We had major plans and it got cut back, a lot of it because of COVID and various other things. But there's also construction plans and things that needed to be done. Now exactly what those are, I don't know.
They talked about the
for sure.
parking lot at some point and stuff. But
Yeah.
There also, I believe, is some money that has been set aside in a commission account that is not reflected in the monies that they're showing here that was set aside for the building of the new hospital. So I don't know if that's the balance of that. That could be, since it's an asset, it could be the balance of that. I don't know. I don't know what it
I
is.
don't know either.
So the bottom line, Michael, is the financials okay or they're not okay?
I think that they're just a little bit hard to understand, and I don't see. Without digging into the numbers, I can't really say. But the understanding of the balance sheet to the cash, that does make sense. That does make sense for the audit adjustment. I did ask them for a copy of the audit adjustment because I wanted to see what Forvis had suggested. I just asked for that this morning. They haven't got it to me yet. But I think it's more that we need to, we just need clarifications of what certain accounts are. And I think with understanding that this will all become a clearer picture to us. But, $2.5 million missing, no, I don't see it in here.
Any idea what the total accumulated depreciation would be? Because they don't reflect the buildings at all. They put buildings and improvements at $52,000. I don't know what that is because they don't own anything. So I don't know what that is. And
I think they have the building across the street.
they don't own that.
They don't
City
own
owns
it. The city owns it, but I don't know if that's part of that or not, Terry. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, I thought
And
maybe
there's also,
that too.
and there's also the Brown House. So I don't know, to be honest with you, what that encompasses.
Well, and the total,
that's- if are they the total cumulative depreciation? I don't know what that is. They don't own anything, so that has to be depreciation on equipment. But it says net property and equipment. That's after depreciation. So that's $3 million overall asset. If originally, if that's what they're showing. I just don't.
well, you have to
I don't know what's puff.
You have to
It's not.
depreciate down your assets So they're saying on their total equipment and fixtures, they're saying the asset is worth $2.2 million. Then they're saying the construction is worth $800,000, and so their total of those assets are $3 million, and they're depreciating that down by 1.6. So now they're saying that their property and equipment that they own, which is their X-ray machines, their beds, all that kind of stuff, is only worth $1.4 million.
Do you think that's what that is there? That's how
That's
they're defining it?
accounting, how it would lay out in accounting. I don't know what makes up that equipment and fixture list, but that would be the steps of the accounting procedure,
Yeah, well,
because they have to depreciate down those assets.
yeah.
That makes
okay.
sense.
Hey, Michael, can you
Yes,
tell
sir.
me what a total stockholders' equity is?
Let's see.
What
It's on-
page is that, David?
It's on the sheet that you handed out, just almost to the very bottom.
That's what they're considering. Their stockholders' equity is the difference between their total assets minus their total liabilities. And their paid-in capital, let's see, now the paid-in capital or net income is what they're calling. I'm not sure what they're listing as paid-in capital, but they're saying their net income from the year is part of their stockholders' equity. I'm not sure why they're calling it stockholders' equity, but
Okay, so are you done, David?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, we're sitting here trying to figure this out still to this day. Do we want to bring in a firm to go through their books to say that the reconciliation is correct, or do we not?
My opinion is I feel slightly more confident in what's happening here because of you and Michael and your input into this process. So thank you for being here to provide some reassurance. I would also say, and thank you for the conversation that happened prior to this meeting to try to facilitate getting questions answered, because that is what I would expect of us as a group to keep this community asset running. My concern is that I have no confidence in the commission. And part of the reason is not because they don't fully understand. I don't fully understand. My lack of confidence, almost 100% lack of confidence in the current commission right now, is because when a question was brought to them, they ignored it, deferred it, got aggressive, and basically weren't going to do anything about it. And that reaction could kill the hospital if it continues. We don't have that much money to play with. And I understand that if things happen on the national level and that funding and subsidy gets cut, we're dead anyway. So we may be beating a dead horse, to use a terrible metaphor. But I take this position very seriously. I love this community, and I know you all do too. And if we can do everything that we can do to save this asset, then I think we should. I do not have confidence in the commission, and I personally do not have confidence in whoever is operationally managing the finances over there. That's just me. And the commission has continued to support that for whatever reason. I don't understand that, but I don't have to, because we have evidence. We've presented it multiple times, and the reaction has been not good, in my opinion. Not caring, not kind, and not what I want for this community. So for me, in my conscience, I have to say, I have no confidence. I would like a third party to review so that we know where we stand and how much money we have to spend moving forward. And I plan on pushing the commission to get a 2025 revised budget so that they're operating within a budget and operating financially responsibly. We do. We have to jump through all kinds of hoops, right, to do that. They should have to do the same thing. They have a very important job, and it's not about egos and it's not about people. It's about our community and our asset. And at the end of the day, if the worst thing happens and we lose our hospital, we still have a building. We still have a community. We still have families here. We still have to figure out what we do with that to make this place the best place to live. So that is where I stand.
Mr. McClellan?
I just want to add to that, and I agree that, you know, I don't want to lose the hospital, but, and that the city should go to any length. That I don't agree with, that because I think that the hospital has to save itself within the confines of the money that is available to them. This city does not have the financial wherewithal to support any inflow of general revenue to that hospital to keep it afloat. We ain't got it. It's simple, plain fact. You know, especially with what we've got going on with the water and sewer, that is, to me, the most critical aspect of city priority right now. And, you know, I'll do whatever it takes to protect that over anything else. So, you know, if they're going to save it, they're going to save it with what they got. And if they can't do that, then it's that simple.
I thought with our email exchange that their auditing people were going to be here today, answer questions. So that's not until they present their budget.
Beg your pardon?
It was at Avery. What's the company?
What about Forbes?
Forbes. Yeah, I thought they were going to be here today. And I thought,
Forbes?
yeah, somebody from Forbes.
Forbes is going to be here until September, I think, is when they're going to have their audit ready, and that's what we tried to do.
So the audit is completed. That's why they're giving her these journal entries and stuff, but they haven't certified it yet as complete. They go through a couple of review processes internally. So once they certify it as final, then that's when they were going to do a presentation, is my understanding. And I think they're planning on giving them the final report in August. And so then I guess it would be the next council meeting or whatever that they could do it. But yeah, they're supposed to be having their report finalized by August, but the audit is completed, and they are well into completing the final review.
Do you know anything about them? Are they reputable?
Oh yeah, that's BK&D. It was originally BK&D, and they've been around forever. Very prestigious, great.
They're in the top 3 of the United States.
They do our audits for us, and so yeah, they're a very reputable firm.
I'm just curious, what is the budget year for the hospital? Is it calendar year, January to December, or July to July?
Calendar year.
Calendar year? Mm-hmm. And so we're in July without a budget.
No, they have a budget. They did a budget for 2025. They just need to do a mid-year budget review probably, and like we do. And
Okay.
plus with it being under this new rule designation, things were going to change and stuff. So yeah, they probably need to be, and that might be a new thing that the CEO does. The new CEO is require a mid-year budget, from the finance director.
I would guess she would want to,
Know where they're at.
because
and
right
what's going on.
now, it looks like a freaking mess.
So.
What I suggested to the city council was that we have, and to the hospital commission, that we have a joint meeting when Forvis does present their
Oh, that's what I saw.
Sure, I
their
think it should
audit.
be
I mean,
included, yeah.
it just, normally, they just present it to the hospital commission, but I think because of the concerns the commission.
It'd give us an understanding, yeah.
Council has, that will have them present it to us, and then the council can also ask Forbes any questions, because they're the third party, they're the independent party, and they are, like I said, I think they're in the top 3 ranked accounting firms in the United States.
And when is this?
We don't know exactly when. The audit has been completed. As Michael said, they're going through certifying it right now. Similar to what we do with the legislative audit that comes through us.
They come out, they audit your books, then the auditor writes a report, and then with all of his findings, or her findings, and then they send it to another person within their office that reviews it to see if, with the highlights, to make sure that everything that they have presented is correct, make sure their findings are correct, and then once that is completed, that review is completed, then they give you your final review. So we have one in review.
Is this annual or is this quarterly?
Annual.
So this is annual.
Similar to what we do with our water.
Yeah.
And this is pretty typical with most CHOs and
But what they're going to be giving us in September is 24, not 25.
Correct.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
It's, I mean, they've got to do it's the last year, same thing with legislative audits with
I mean,
us.
that's as up to date as we're going to get.
I think that is a really important point because they're auditing what's happened and we're in 25 now and we're 6-7 months into 25, almost 8 months into 25, spending outside of a budget, spending like we have plenty of money. Meanwhile, our visitation is historically low and it is just not a sustainable path. Again, I'm concerned that no one at the commission or maybe even in the hospital, I don't know. I don't know what those conversations look like that aren't public, but I would expect to hear some concern on that. I mean,
Yeah, I believe on the financials that they provided for June that they just released, they are now showing a positive. They're showing a net income. So
If that trend-
it is starting to, it is starting to turn into that direction. And I'm not forecasting, I'm not saying anything, about going forward, but I'm just saying that the financials that she handed out yesterday did show, and I haven't had a chance to review them. I just
yeah. If you look at a 5-year trend, they're at their peak. So June is the peak. I mean, if I were forecasting, I would expect July to look not quite as good, August to look not quite as good, September, no, October a little bit better, and then nothing.
So this audit that will take place, I don't think is going to show the concerns and issues we have in the deep dive of their budget or of their reporting. I think it's just going to show whether they're reporting some things in the right way. There's questions that we have. I would feel better if we brought an outside firm in just to make sure everything's the right way. And alert, maybe something that the people at the hospital will learn too. Bring someone in that can review this and say you're on the right track or you are not, and we can end this. But to wait for this audit, I don't think they're going to tell us what we have been finding. I really don't. I motion to bring in an outside.
Can't do that here.
Oh, I have to do that Monday? Okay. Oh,
I
all
do have
right.
a question for Michael on that, and that is, if we do that, what you have any idea what that might cost? 30 grand, 50 grand?
I would say less than 20. Less than 20. You're probably looking, it depends on what kind of audit you wanted. In the email that I sent out to you, there's 2 different kinds. There's an audit where they're going to go in and look at every slip of paper. That's going to cost you 20 grand or more. If you have where you go in and you do the AUP, the approved procedures, that's going to be less because what they're going to do is go in and hit the highlights and make sure that things aren't off by a certain amount. And it's a little bit more overview. It's not check by check and things like that. It's more sampling and stuff like that. So it gives you an overall picture because that whenever I took over as finance director, we were several years behind on our water audits. And so we were able to do, Leg Audit had approved that cities of our size could do these AUPs to get caught up. And so we used it to get caught up in our water audits. And they just, indicate where you've posted something wrong or you've done something wrong. The thing that I would say about what you're gaining from this Forvis audit is, they are making corrections that have come out through this audit. So as with these new financials that they've put out for May and for June, you're seeing that correction and you're seeing things starting to come more into line with what you're looking for. So, I mean, I don't see, by the time you're going to have a time frame, an audit doesn't take a week. An audit takes several months to do, even an AUP audit. It takes several months. So you're looking at quite a time frame of getting an audit, getting an auditor, getting them to put you on the list to get it done. Unless you go to an outside CPA or something like that, that might do it. It'd be a little quicker, but you're looking at some time frames. So, it would depend on how bad you feel about what's going on. If you see something in there that you think is absolutely wrong and it's out there, then you might want to get an audit. But if it's just these corrections that need to be made by these journal entries that Forvis is giving, then I think you need to kind of let that work it through, give it a little time for those to work it in for it to come back into line, is my opinion.
So I would say before the email earlier today, and before understanding that that is basically a symptom, that's a consequence of them going through the 24 audit.
Yes.
That makes me feel better. I really feel better about knowing that. I guess if we're concerned about spending that much money, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, how confident do you feel comfortable saying how confident you are that what we're seeing on the financials is actually what's real?
I can't verify that
Yeah.
because I'm not looking at those numbers.
Yeah.
Now, how confident am I in Forvis? Vary. How confident am I that if Forvis had seen something, because they don't put it on the report, but they do look at like your starting in 25, because when they get to their conclusion in 24, they want to see that it kind of rolls over into your 25 and you're starting off on the right path. But they don't include that in their audit results. So I think if Forvis saw something that was really, they would have already had the commission in there talking to them about it. Because if Leg Audit sees something that's incredibly wrong, they notify the mayor of something that I'm doing wrong, and that they need to fix. So I feel confident in what Forvis is doing. I feel confident in the adjustments that they're making, but without being able to go, like, the construction thing and that stuff, without being able to actually sit down and look at their books and click on that number and see what makes
Verify
it up.
it all, and yeah.
I can't speak on that.
And that's
I just
a lot of
can't.
work, so I understand why
believe
that'd be
that
20,000.
over the next 2 months, which, September's not far away now. We've got July, August, probably won't have September numbers, but if they're going to come in September, we'll see that trend that he's referring to and that you're referring to, that if it continues, to increase, or if it starts to decline, again, we'll have, you're not going to do anything any quicker than that anyway. So
I think we're going to have the audit available in August to be able to have a presentation.
Oh, it'll be available in August, I see.
To make the presentation
Yeah,
to
well,
both
but
of them.
that's only for.
It's less than a month away.
Yeah, but that's for the 24. But
Yes, sir.
It'll show that trend, but we'll know that if that continues, if they provide us what they did today for June, and we also get July and August as they're prepared,
starting point.
when they happen, and we'll see what those trends show, and then
Or maybe we could pay,
we'll be ready for that.
Maybe we can pay Michael here like $50 or something.
Thank you, Michael.
Do the
One thing
audit.
I did want to point out too, and I told the mayor about this the other day, but I did include it in my email, and he said, go back and do it, and I'd end up not. But when you do hire somebody, if you decided to hire somebody to come in and do an independent audit, they're going to want a starting point. They're going to want a solid starting point. So they can take that Forvis audit, and that's their kind of jumping off point, and they know those numbers are certified. They're confident with them, and then they can move forward from there.
Okay.
So you're
That's
going to
good.
kind of want to wait until that report is even finalized.
2020,
Because if
because we
you
include
don't,
2024.
if you tried to start them now, they're going to have to go back to 23.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because they're not going, a good auditor is not going to go, well, I'll just take your January numbers and we'll say they're okay and I'll audit you from there. They're going to want, what was your last official audit? Where did that stop? And then they're going to want to pick up from there.
Do we have a legal right to even ask for an audit over the hospital?
We can do it. We can do our own audit without
Yeah, the
problem.
city would have to pay
It
for it.
would be on our dime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, given all that, I would be comfortable. It seems prudent to at least wait for a month and see what that audit
I think we need to wait till they get here.
I
And
agree.
we get to talk to them, and we can ask them questions too. That firm. I mean, they have their criteria, but we can ask them. Butch already said we could. Anything we want to ask them. So, you know, what they put in their coffee. So it's, you know,
And at that
they may
point,
not have
too,
the answers, but they might.
we'll probably still need to go out for an RFP if we want to do another auditor, but we can also ask Forbes
Yeah.
what they would charge to do an audit on it.
And
And they are an independent audit. I mean,
Yes.
they're not,
Right, I know.
they're not going to be biased to the hospital
sure,
or
yeah.
to the city.
Which
It's
I think is
their,
what's needed, yeah.
you know, that's their professional reputation.
Yeah.
So I would have confidence in, if the council wanted to, for them to
Oh,
do
I
another
wouldn't
deep
have any
dive
problem.
or
And it
bring
may
it up
save
to
money,
date.
too.
David?
Yeah, I just want to bring up to everybody, this started as a people problem, a human problem with what was going on under the hostile work environment of the hospital, and now we've ballooned into this, and I'm really glad that we're here, but I don't want us to forget about the people who have been fired, who are still afraid for their jobs, and work in that type of environment. So there's two things I think we need to continue to address, and that's the hostile work environment and the books.
Well, I would say, to follow up on that, it did start as a people problem and a problem with the administration, and it moved to the commission because of their reaction to the questions that we had. And it, for me, has ended in that same place. It seems obvious to me that there's an issue with the administration. Certainly on, I don't see, I have no confidence on the financial side. It's just confusing, and whatever's being reported to the commission, maybe that's where it's falling apart. You know, I'll give the commission that. But at the end of the day, you know, if we can make excuses for the CFO, we can make excuses for the commission, and then we have no money and no hospital, and we're saddled with an asset and we don't know what to do with, and we have no money to use it in any other way. So I think we as a group have to keep engaged and stay aware of what's happening, and by conceding to not do a third-party audit, I'm still not 100% confident with what's happening on the financial side. And I think it all goes back, personally, at this point, I didn't come in thinking this, I think it goes back to the administration. I don't know what we as a body can do about that, because we have a commission that's in charge of taking care of that side. And I think that our commission is not functioning in the way that it should. It's certainly not functioning in the way that I would like for it to. And I would say to you, Mr. Mayor, I would hope that you could find someone, more than one person, to nominate and put in place of the commission to provide the oversight, guidance, and operational direction that needs. Because we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of money, which means we don't have a lot of time.
We're getting off track a little bit, but
It's the same. No,
understand.
it's not.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but it's not the mayor's job. It's the council. It's the communities, to everybody. It's trying to find volunteers is a very difficult situation in this organization, as we know, with
I thought the operation
CAPC.
was that you nominated someone and we approved it. Is that
Beg your
right?
pardon?
Do you not nominate someone to serve on the commission
If
and
they
we approve it?
volunteer, I can't go up and say, you know, John Blow, I want to nominate you. You'll go, no, I don't want to be on it. I nominate people usually who volunteer to be on those commissions.
Well, I guess what I'm saying, and you know, to
And
everyone.
I make a note of that at every meeting for people to please, you know, if you're interested, please come up and sign up.
Is there a vacancy right now? I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I think
Is there?
it's one.
And maybe one, I'm not sure if
Didn't
We just
Willie
filled
Dan-
that.
Willie
We
Daniels?
just approved
Oh,
Willie.
yeah, yeah, that's right, Willie.
That's right, so I don't think there is a vacancy.
Yeah, I
There
think
may not
Willie,
be
yeah,
one
Willie
right
did,
now.
that's
But
right.
a city council member cannot be on the commission, right?
no.
No.
No. And I did find that one. I mean, I did come up, and I've tried to find the people. I found most of the people that are on that commission. I'm not taking it personal that you don't have confidence in those people, but anyway.
I think we got to
Commissioner
remember that, look, you know, it is that commission that is in charge of that. You know, we can oversee here and project all we want to, but we're not in that decision process. We can remove them, I suppose. But, I'm sorry, and this sounds callous. I want the hospital as much as anybody. But, if they sink it, they sink it. I can't help it.
I would
I'm not happy
agree.
with that kind of an outcome, but, I am, it's their baby.
So Terry, it's their baby, but we are still the city council. And I would agree with that statement if they sink it. But I could not live with myself if we did not do our due diligence and everything that we think we can.
And we are trying to do that. We really are. But we can only do so much because we're not in charge.
We could remove. We could remove.
We kind of are in charge.
Okay?
We can remove city council or commissioners, hospital commissioners.
Careful what you wish for.
Have we got other items on the budget?
Well, I would say if we did get to the point where we wanted to look at a third party, I have done some work based on what you shared with me to put together timelines, exactly what we would be looking for. I think that the PU, remind me, wait.
AUP.
AUP would be the direction that I feel like we would go. That would make the most sense because I think we have very specific questions about certain things, and it would be easy enough to identify that. Again, I'm fine to wait and see how the audit comes out, but I am definitely inclined to. My next thought is that based on what the next actions of the commission are, because we've already been met with resistance, outright aggression, and basically non-compliance, removing commissioners. If that kind of behavior continues moving forward, that will be my next move for me, because I'm with you. It's my conscience. I'm here. I'm going to do the best job that I can, regardless of whatever the outcome is. And I would expect that we work together to solve problems. And if you're not going to do that, then what good is it?
I agree with you.
That's it.
I would like to, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, Ms. Moyer, but I do want the council to please remember too, when you're getting rid of the commissioners is a prerogative of the city council. That's without a question. We do have on that council, majority of them do have medical and hospital experience. So they may not have the CPA experience and financial experience, but they've got the medical backgrounds in the majority of the case. And also, they're volunteers. So I'm sure if you relieve a lot of them, relieve them all, they may be perfectly happy over that. But then we got to find somebody to replace them, and we can't do it, unfortunately, unless we all want to resign from the city council and become hospital commissioners, which none of us, I don't think, want to do that either. So
No, but
then we got another issue to come up with. So we just need to keep all that in mind when we do this. There's a lot of dominoes that can fall. So
I think I agree, and I think it's possible that the culture that's the person leading the commission right now, I don't want to make this personal, but there may be a culture there that if you start removing commissioners, that may change. A body of people take on a characteristic, as I would point to this group, and it matters who the leader is. The fish stinks from the head. That's what I would say. The other thing that I would say to you, to everyone, to commissioners specifically, is that I am glad that they have the knowledge that they have, and I would expect that they bring it to the table and they ask questions. There should be questions asked at every single meeting. And it doesn't take being a CEO of a hospital to ask a question or to ask what's being said to you, to ask for explanation. That can happen, and volunteers absolutely in that position should be doing that.
all right. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all very much for the meeting. And we will adjourn then.